Today I wanted to go through 5 overrated study habits that either science has found to be inefficient or that I've personally found to be a big waste of time. I'll first explain why I think these are a big waste of time, and second I'll give you a much better, more effective alternative that you can use instead. I don't want to discourage anyone from doing anything in particular because doing something is always better than doing nothing. Regardless of what anyone says, if you're getting the grades you want and you have a balanced routine, then click off this video honestly. But the reason I think that this is important for most people I know is because of these study habits. Back in school I was studying up to 10 hours a day, and despite that I was feeling stuck, I wasn't learning things properly, I was cramming, and then I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. I just wish someone had actually just shaken me up and told me to think, what's the point of what you're doing right now? Is it actually helping you? Can you do this in a clever way that can actually help improve your learning in the long run? Everyone knows how ineffective reading the content over and over again is, yet everyone, including me, still resort to doing it. We do it because it's easy. I mean, how else are you supposed to take in all that information and memorize it, understand it? You can't just understand and memorize something after one read, so rereading makes sense, it's logical. But the reality is that it's probably the #1 biggest time-sucking thing that we do when we're studying. And the reason is that we need to reread that text like 7 times before it actually gets stuck in our head. On a basic level, rereading is just not worth the time. You're passively looking over your notes and just recognizing information. And honestly, I have way too much stuff to be doing anyways. I don't want to waste my time on a practice that gets me very little value for the amount of time I put in. We read stuff again and again when we don't understand the content properly. So logically, to avoid wasting time rereading, what we should be doing is focusing on the understanding process, or making sure we're encoding the information efficiently when we take it in the first time. Encoding is the initial learning of information. So instead of repeatedly reading the same thing over and over again, hoping it sticks, think about how your brain understands things in the first place. It doesn't take one bit of information at a time, store it, then take the next one, store that. Each piece of information you take in is a dot, and what your brain does is that it tries to take this information in by connecting it to other dots in your head, to previous knowledge in your head. So when you read about a concept, the first thing you need to do to encode it efficiently in your head is to think about how you can take this dot and connect it to pre-existing dots of knowledge in your head. Consciously do this when you're actually reading something for the first time, because there's almost always a mental model or a previous topic that you knew about that you can link this new knowledge to. Calculus is really difficult as a subject, but with the rules of algebra and geometry, it becomes quite simple. When reading a paragraph, never just think, I'm going to sit and understand this one sentence. Always jump straight to linking it in with your prior knowledge and think about the information in the bigger picture. Use analogies to understand, ask yourself questions, make stories up in your head, visualize, think out loud. Do anything you can to connect those dots in the best way possible. Because if you focus on doing that, your brain will naturally understand and organize the information in your head. If you encode it more effectively, it'll get stored a lot faster, and you'll just need to revise it a lot less. I know it works for a lot of people, but I just don't like the Pomodoro Method. It's basically cycles of 25 minutes of work followed by a 5-minute rest. The idea of inserting breaks whenever I'm working makes a lot of sense to me, but my problem comes from the fixed time frames. Both the work time and the rest time suck. It takes at least 10 minutes to get into a good flow state, and most tasks are much more than 25 minutes anyways. So whenever I get to my 5-minute break, it always feels like an interruption, like a distraction from the actual productive work that I need to get done. And as for the break, people say that it motivates them to work hard for the 25 minutes, but I personally don't see how a tiny 5-minute break will help in any way. 5 minutes is not long enough for a good rejuvenating break. It isn't even long enough to go to the bathroom and get a quick snack, let alone a chance to restore your energy and recharge your concentration. I do sometimes change the time frame to a 15-minute of work followed by a 10-minute rest, and I think that does work really well when I'm feeling particularly distracted and when I need that rigid structure. But more often than that, what I do is I use the flow time method, which involves working on one single task until it's finished or until your concentration drops below 50%, and then taking a longer, refreshing, rejuvenating break. I prefer this a lot more because it encourages me to get into a flow state to get something done, and I always end up doing deep work for at least 1 to 2 hours before I start getting tired at all. And then I get this nice long break too. You get a lot more done, it feels more fulfilling, and then you get a higher quality 20 minutes break to watch an episode, go get food with a friend, or go for a walk, whatever you want. Making notes is too much added unnecessary effort on your learning. Most of us love to copy our textbooks and distill our lectures into these comprehensive booklets and notes just to reread them down the line. I used to make these comprehensive booklets of summaries back in grade 10, but I wish I asked myself, why? Why am I putting in so much time to make these summaries when I can get free online pre-made notes for pretty much any subject in school? Or I could have used condensed revision guides made by credited authors. It was honestly nothing more than a safety net. And if you've watched any of my videos, you know that rereading, making notes, all of these things are passive. These are the least effective ways to learn anything. Just think about it. It doesn't allow you to understand things efficiently, nor does it help you retain the knowledge and help you retrieve it in any way. It's practically useless in the process of learning. So to combat this, instead of making notes, what I did was I started to make questions, because I do understand that you do need to do more than just understand it nicely to help it stick in your head. You need to actually be able to recall it down the line. But processing huge chunks of information is really difficult if you don't do something with it. So what I do is I convert all the content I need to know for my exams into my recall questions. I don't write their answers down, I just write my questions. I have my Word doc of questions open on one side, and I have the lecture PowerPoint open on the other side. I go through it one slide at a time, convert the information, the bullet points there, into questions. And because I'm putting in the little added effort of converting whatever I'm learning into questions, I can now actually use these questions to accomplish the second part of the learning process: testing yourself. Retrieval. It is the part of the learning process that is essential for remembering information. So the next time I come back to that topic, I start that study session by answering these questions out loud. First, I try my best to answer these questions. Then I come back to the PowerPoints and look at what I didn't understand, fill in those knowledge gaps. And lastly, I practice this again and again. I go back to these questions whenever I'm studying and try and improve every single time. You see, instead of putting in way more time to make in tons of notes, you're just making questions. And now you can use those questions for active, effective studying in all your future revision sessions. You don't want to go in blind and treat studying as this endless burden. A lot of us jump in thinking we want to give 100% to that subject and get that top grade, but not many of us have a clear reason of why. We start the year off with full concentration, putting in 100% every single week, but then as soon as it hits like week 3, we relax a bit, and then a month or 2 in, we start to fall behind. This is because our approach wasn't structured. We were just studying for the sake of it, or because everyone else is studying that much. We just didn't have a clear aim. This isn't a smart way to achieve things. We need to think about the goals that we set. You need to set clear goals for why you're studying in the first place, and then make a tactical plan to achieve that goal. You need to know how much studying you need to do for every subject to achieve that goal, because studying can honestly be endless. And if you don't have a simple structured plan, you're gonna just make studying your entire life. For example, if you need 90% in 3 out of your 6 exams, okay, let's figure out, let's work backwards. How many hours do you need to put into each subject every week? What resources do you need to use? And which way is the best to tackle that exam in the most efficient and effective way possible? You make weekly plans for the things you want to accomplish outside of the mandatory classes and homework, and you make sure you stick to completing whatever the minimum stuff on that task list is. If your goal isn't as intense, then maybe you should make your focus a lot less exam based. Maybe just do learning for the sake of learning, build skills and build passions, and focus on enjoying what you're doing and keeping up the minimum bare requirements of the every week homeworks and things like that. Either way, don't aimlessly just study. Create a general plan or general outline for what you want to do or accomplish, and then stick to that and do that every week. That 100% hustle mindset that we have sometimes is quite powerful, to be honest. We're all socially hardwired to desire success, and it motivates us to achieve a lot more than we think that we're capable of. But it also has the opposite impact. If we aren't succeeding to the level or expectation that we have, there's so many adverse impacts on our ego, our mood, our overall energy. It can just lead to this downward spiral in our identity. And even though I'm at that stage where I do want to push myself to my limits and challenge myself as much as possible with everything that I'm doing, I still think that the idea of grinding 100% and overworking yourself like that is overrated. We glorify spending our entire life working and studying, but the key thing I try to ask myself every week almost is that, am I enjoying the process? Am I being efficient? Am I getting enough rest time to do fun social things or family things? The balance is really perfect if you are juggling a lot of things, but breaks are important. I know they can feel like a waste of time, but whenever I go away and stop working and completely switch off, I come back happier. I'm more receptive to information. I'm more keen to learn things and try new things. I'm more creative, and I'm just more passionate about the work that I'm doing. Some days though, the problem isn't working inefficiently for 12 plus hours. It's actually getting started with the work in the first place. And if that's the case with you as well, then watch this right here. In this video, I go through my practical way of dealing with the I don't feel like studying feeling by showing you how I break out of that laziness void you get in. I show you how I make it really easy to start, and I also show you how I make it easy to continue over time consistently. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped. I'll see you in the next one.